And I'm going to continue with the questions.
Thank you very much for bringing this panel to our community. Thank you, James, for all the information you bring forth and the knowledge about marijuana. Back again to the title, Marijuana and the Teenage Brain. My reason for being here is I wanted to find out what effect it had on the teenage brain and why it was so important to tell you kids not to do it. You are forming, you are growing, you are learning, you are becoming a being. And if you are going to encumber your brain with a chemical that's going to take away from your humanness, your wholeness, stop and think. It's fun. You can have good times. You can party. You can get stoned. You can giggle. And that's what it's about then. But the years ahead of you, it may not be that way. You may have brought something into your life that wasn't good for you. You can make the decision. Mom can tell you, I don't want. Mom and dad can restrict you, but you're the one that's going to make the decision on your life. You eat organic. You drink the best juices, the best foods for your body. It is a holy place. Take care of it.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I have more of a political question apropos educating teenagers and just teenage awareness. Do you guys think that Amendment 64 and the legalization of cannabis could actually be beneficial to the education of teenagers? Because I know when I was younger, there was always alcohol around the house. My parents drink wine. And I knew a lot more about the effects of alcohol on the brain than I did about the effects of marijuana on the brain, simply because it's more prevalent. So do you think that legalizing marijuana and saying, we're going to say that, this select group of people over the age of 21 can use the drug, allowing them to use the drug because it's going to happen anyway, bring it into the light, bring it into the mainstream, could be beneficial or detrimental to the education of the youth specifically?
In a way, I would say that yes, it is beneficial because it forces the states to put on tighter constraints as far as their statistics. And before now, we've had basic stats. We've generalized a lot of things. We've encompassed, cannabis with generalized drugs. And it forces them now to look at it a little bit closer and isolate this particular drug and actually see some of those stats. The downside of that is it will be years before we actually have good statistics to know. So in the meantime, we're going through this roller coaster of experimentation and, the openness and normalcy of it. Where's it going to give? I don't know.
Okay.
I know that this is the first time I've been invited to talk about marijuana. So I didn't have something like this when I was in school. I didn't have opportunity to education about marijuana like this. I don't know if we've had this in our valley prior to this, but I do know that there is a discussion being had now, and it is, the media's got reports out there that are making people aware of it. There is education going out there. So in my opinion, I believe that we're now seeing that, hey, there needs to be awareness around this because this is pretty serious. And it's been easier to just kind of say, it's just pot and everyone smokes pot. But you know what? It's real. What it does to your brain and how it affects you and what it can do to your life is pretty serious. And I do have individuals who come in my program that just smoke weed. They ended up in rehab because they smoke weed. So it's a serious drug, and it really does damage to your brain. And the fact that we're having this discussion now, I think, is really important. If this is what it took for us to do this, You know, going back to what you're saying, yes, there's accessibility. We do have education out there, and I think we're going to see more of it. And that's, again, my opinion. I'm not a drug and alcohol counselor.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
I want to answer this. I'm going to go out on a limb here.
I want to say one thing. We have about 10 minutes left, so we're going to answer this question, and I would like to have time for 2 more questions.
As a certified addictions counselor who specializes in adolescents and have been doing this since 1987, I'm going to say no to your question. No.
Why?
I don't think this will do anything for adolescents. This will do something for parents.
But I guess my question really is that legitimizing marijuana will kind of it will, because the federal government is still hindering a lot of the research and medical research specifically that could be done on cannabis use for the and so I'm just curious, like, do you think legitimizing it in a political way will spread awareness because it's, you know, more prevalent, is what I'm asking.
I
At
think
all.
no. And my answer is no. And then my question to you is this going to keep you and your peers from smoking pot? And I don't need you to answer that and put you on the spot, but I can answer that question because I don't think forums like this actually really keep people from smoking pot.
Right. I mean, people are going to smoke marijuana regardless.
Yeah.
But saying that it's-
Regardless, so you just answered that question.
But if I could touch on it, I do think it's a good thing. And right now, the federal government recognizes marijuana as a Schedule 1 substance. I think that puts it on par with substance that is nothing like. And I think that's inherently dangerous to tell the youth that some things are like other things, because then if, especially something so readily available, I don't want them to think that other things aren't as dangerous either. But for youth, avoid it.
I don't want to minimize the reality of the drug and its problems. It's a Schedule 1 drug for a reason, because of its harmful effects and minimal beneficial effects. And that's what Schedule 1 means. And in terms of it being put on par with cocaine and other drugs, being put on par with other types of drugs like this, that awareness is very, very important. In terms of your question, my main concern, there's no one right answer to it, right? But my main concern is the effects it's having right now on the patients I see, as well as the schools that I go into, where we have young people seeing it as quote unquote legitimate and believing therefore that it is useful. And that's where the negative concern of the legalization the concern over legalization and its impact on kids will be.
And I appreciate your question, and thank you guys for your answers. This is the first of many conversations we're going to have. So it's great that you bring up some concerns, and I'm happy to hear some of your responses. We're ready for just 2 more questions, I think we have time for. Thank you.
Okay, I'm representing Rifle High School and Glenwood High School. We chose one question from each high school. So the first one from Glenwood Springs. Does anyone on the panel know what is actually being done in the Valley to dissuade teens from using while at school?
Ooh. How much time do we have? It's a collective effort. You know, parents have to be involved from the beginning before it even gets to the school. As far as the usage at the school, you know, I'm there, you know, we have other resource officers that are there, but also we rely on the administration, the teachers, we rely on their peers, okay, to not only put forward, you know, the positive peer pressure of, you know, not doing this, but then also the staff, educating them as well to recognize when these situations are going on and kids are coming into class stoned, or, you know, they can see the effects, to alert people, alert the parents, alert the administration, alert us. The more involved we are and the better educated we are, the more we can put a stop to it.
There is a Valley Coalition also that has started to continue conversations like this. So there's a lot of momentum, I think, around really educating youth. So thank you for that question. You have another one from Rifle?
And the one from Rifle is for James. So what keeps a 22-year-old from buying for, that is worded weird, sorry. What keeps a 22-year-old from buying for the 18-year-old or younger teen?
The law and their conscience, I hope. And just like I talked about before, just kind of the line of accountability. If he decides to make it a habit, we could probably track him down and figure out who it was. But more than that, I just think that, it's just that's the type of person. I can't speak to that hypothetical person because it doesn't sound like a very good person.
And as far as that question, it's the same as someone going into a liquor store and buying, it's still contributing to a minor.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Hi, thank you all for being here. My question is around spice, the synthetic pot, and if you could just talk about the effects to the brain, the difficulties you're seeing, and if you could actually anyone could talk to the difference between the two. Thank you.
I don't have very good. I know the spice is synthetic THC, and I know it brings forth, in addition to issues that people are worried about with marijuana, it has a whole side of, subsidiary ailments that it brings.
Spice is a synthetic THC. The affinity for the binding in the brain is what we're really looking at, and you can see a significant increase in binding capacity. And how does that binding capacity affect the brain then? Is it multiplies the negative effects that we had been talking about. There is also the synthetics. What are the ancillary things that are associated with it? Those binders and the other things that they use, and how is that being made, and what's it's sort of like, when you're talking about cocaine and things like that. So,
can a teen tell the difference between the two? Is there any way for them to know?
The way it's not smoked the same way. Things like the way it's being provided, but I don't have the answer specifically to that. I'm sorry.
They look very different. Spice essentially is potpourri that's sprayed with the synthetic THC. It doesn't smell or look like marijuana.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Thank you. Jessica Olson, Green Hill Laboratories. We're actually trying to start up a retail marijuana testing facility here in Carbondale. So we're very interested and excited to meet you guys and talk a little bit afterwards. But I guess my question springboards off of what this woman was discussing with the edibles problem. I want to know what flaws in the state laws you've encountered since the laws have been drafted that are preventing you from doing your job in protecting public health and safety and preventing children from obtaining this very, very potent substance.
I think right now the edibles and concentrates, you can buy far more of those than you can marijuana. So there's kind of a misbalance in the amount of marijuana you can purchase versus the concentrates or edibles. And there's actually movements in legislation to kind of correct those differences.
And this is a continually ongoing process. They're continuing to revise the laws as they go. This is a learning process, not only for Colorado, but for the nation. I know James and I have had conversations that, overall there are a multitude of states that are looking at Colorado, that are looking at Washington, trying to figure out how we ourselves are regulating in order to figure out what they may or may not do. So it is just a long, tedious process. And to say that we can keep it out of their hands, I don't know.